And so getting back into our coverage over X-Men comics leading up to the fall of the mutant storyline, we do pick up with New Mutants number 51 and 52. Now, this two-part story arc really does focus more on Magneto possibly joining the Hellfire Club, but on top of that, answering a very important question. Will Charles Xavier come back to Earth to lead the X-Men, but to also become the headmaster of his school once again to teach the New Mutants? And the reason why that question is really important because at the end of our last video, Charles Xavier read the mind of Magma to get an idea of what was happening on Earth ever since he had left and joined the Starjammers. Now, because he only read the mind of Magma, he was unable to get a very clear picture of what was happening on Earth. But now because he has all the New Mutants there and he's being able to read all their minds, he has a better idea. The idea of the mutant massacre event happening. An evil group of mutants going out of their way to kill off other mutants for the heck of it. On top of that, you have different countries right now trying to make different laws as a way to get rid of mutants or possibly find ways to depower mutants. But the biggest one that really did bother him the most was X Factor. Now let's not forget, when it came to X Factor, to the public, they believed that it was a group of humans who were going out of their way to help hunt down mutants to make human lives, a little bit easier. But in reality, X Factor is trying to help out mutants and get them out of tight situations and try to teach them how to control their powers and then put them back out there in society. But the problem is though, when it comes to the New Mutants, all they know is that, hey, we heard of X Factor and we heard there are really a group of characters who are hunting down mutants, and that's really it. And so when Charles reads the minds of the New Mutants, he finds out that X Factor is his original 5 students: Cyclops, Jean Grey, Beast, Iceman, Angel. And so he's left to wonder why in the world X Factor is going after their own kind for. Now we know the real reason why, but for the public, the New Mutants and Charles Xavier, it's the idea that they're hunting down their own kind. And so now he's left to wonder, maybe he should go back to Earth to try to fix things for the mutant race. And this is a really big question because he joined the Starjammers, but he's also with Ileandra, his alien girlfriend, and she knows that most likely he will leave. And if he does, that means they will no longer be able to be with one another. And so we jump over to Magneto and also Storm. Now remember, around this time, the X-Men were currently at Muir Island because half their team got seriously injured in the mutant massacre event. Kitty Pryde, Colossus, and Nightcrawler. Now on top of that, Magneto is the headmaster of the school, meaning that he is the leader of the X-Men. And so when it comes to Magneto, he's kind of worried about the New Mutants because around this point he has no idea where they are. We do, but he doesn't. But he also is wondering if he should accept the offer that came from the Hellfire Club. They want Magneto to become the White King of the club. Now for Storm, she says yes, but this is such a huge deal. And the reason why, because around this time, the Hellfire Club was one of the most deadliest foes of the X-Men. And so you are talking about the idea of joining up with your enemies. But for Storm, she says, look on the bright side if you do. One, when it comes to the Hellfire Club, they have a lot of assets that we could use to kind of help us out, but also other mutants around the world. Two, if you do join, maybe you'll be a better teacher than Emma Frost when it comes to the Hellions, her own group of students. But finally, the idea of kind of adding more security to the mansion, to the school, because again, the Marauders are still out there and they might come back to the school to attack the X-Men. And so why not join the Hellfire Club to grab some extra money, but to also add extra defense to the school to protect the school? And so it's Storm bringing up a lot of good reasons why Magneto should join the Hellfire Club, but to also do a new game plan called Omega. And so now we jump back over to Charles Xavier and also the New Mutants and the Starjammers. Now remember, the reason why Charles Xavier is with the Starjammers because there was a point where he was seriously injured and they were able to save his life. And so because of that, he feels like he's in their debt. He's trying to pay back for what they have done for him. But now he's kind of wondering, should he go ahead and leave, go back to Earth, and help out the mutant race, or to make sure that his debt is paid? And so for him, it's kind of hard to decide until Magik happens. See, when it comes to Magik, she's kind of freaking out because for the New Mutants and Charles to get back home safely, they have to go into Limbo and use Limbo as a way to teleport back to Earth. But the problem is though, when it comes to Magik being the ruler of Limbo, when she does use too much of her magic powers in Limbo, it opens up the door to her dark side, something she wants to keep away. And so just hearing the idea of like, hey, you need to use Limbo to get everybody home, she's freaking out. Like, no, I don't want to do that. Now, also in Limbo, there's also a group of demons who are trying to technically get rid of her. They're trying to say, we don't need you as our leader. We have Sin who can be our leader. And so the idea of facing a war in Limbo, but to also say the dark side of her might come out, it's a lot to deal with. But you have Charles Xavier cross some lines. And what he does is that he tells Karma to use her powers to possess the body of Magik to bring her outside of her room. And once that is done, he tells her to use the powers of Magik to get everyone home, to make Magik open up a portal to lead to Limbo that will lead back to Earth. And that's crossing so many lines because a young girl just told Charles, hey, I don't want to use Limbo. I hate using Limbo. I'm scared of my dark side. And here goes Charles saying, I understand. Hey, Karma, use your powers on her to force her to do what I want y'all to do, which is go back home. And so it happens. Like literally it happens. Now for Charles, he tries to say that he is innocent only because the Starjammers are currently being attacked and he wants to protect his students. But again, you did cross some lines using one student on the other. Now, he does tell us, the readers, that he is not going back to Earth because, again, he owes so much to the Starjammers. And once they're out of danger and he feels like he paid his debt, then he'll go back to Earth to continue to help the mutant race against the human race. And so the New Mutants, they go back to Earth and Charles stays. Now, thanks to Charles Xavier, even though he was able to get his students back home, well, Magik is very upset because she told him, I don't want to use Limbo at all. And she was forced to. And so she is so upset, she goes back to Limbo, leaving us wondering what the heck she's going to do there. But she does tell our other heroes, once she does come back from Limbo, come back to Earth, she is going to attack the New Mutants. And we're left to wonder, will she actually do that? But getting back over to Magneto, we get confirmation that he has joined the Hellfire Club as the White King. Now here's the thing, because after he has joined, well, we learned the Black King, Sebastian Shaw, has something up his sleeve. He has something big planned down the road to do to Magneto. And he also is trying to use Magneto for his own personal reasons. But he's not the only one. We also kind of find out the Black Queen, Selene, she also has something up her sleeve as well. And she's hoping that Magneto and Sebastian will kill each other off so that she'll be able to pull off her plan. But either way, at the end of this chapter, Magneto is a member of the Hellfire Club. And so then we jump into New Mutants number 52. And when we do, we pick up with, of course, the New Mutants fighting against the Marauders. And you're probably wondering, hey Fresh, how in the world did we get to this point right here? Like, at the end of the last chapter, our heroes arrived on Earth and out of nowhere, they're fighting against the Marauders? Well, let me explain. This is a training session. Some time has passed by between the two chapters, and so Magneto came back home to find out the New Mutants are back. But now he wants to train them and teach them how to fight against the Marauders. And the reason why, because in the middle of the Mutant Massacre, when the X-Men came back with injured people, he told them, you guys need to stay here at the school. We have no idea who the Marauders are. Of course, the New Mutants did not listen because two of their friends went missing and they actually traveled through the sewers where the Mutant Massacre was happening at. Now, luckily for our young heroes, they were not confronted by the Marauders, but they could have been, and then could have been killed off. And that is Magneto's point. You guys were supposed to stay here at the school for your own protection. You guys went out of your own way to do your own thing, and you could have been killed. And so I want you guys to learn how powerful and how deadly the Marauders truly are. And there is another reason why, and the reason why because most of the New Mutants, they believe that they're on the level of the X-Men, especially Sunspot. He hates the idea of being known as the novice group, that they are a better group than that. They have been together for a while now to the point where they could be almost good as the X-Men. We know that is not true, but in their minds, their young minds, most of them kind of believe that. But for Magneto, no, that's not the case. You need to learn how to protect yourself if you're going to go against my rules and get yourselves into huge trouble. But getting back over to Magik, we see that she has left to Limbo. Well, matter of fact, she's still in Limbo. She never did come back. But with her being in Limbo, she's trying to fight against Sin and other demons who are trying to remove her. Because when it came to our previous video, Magus, the father to Warlock, was kind of able to take over Limbo. Matter of fact, spread his technovirus to all the different creatures of Limbo. And so because of that, you have these demons kind of half demonic, half cybernetic, and they're trying to remove her as their queen. But she's trying to regain control of this area. And matter of fact, the leader of the group that's trying to get rid of her is Sin, who used to be her right-hand man. But he's trying to get rid of her, like I said. And so the next few pages is her trying to stop him and regain control. But the problem is he just keeps coming back over and over again. Now we also get a reminder of what happened in the previous story arc. Remember, the New Mutants had traveled to two alternate timelines, to future alternate timelines where a lot of dark things had happened. And so when it comes to our heroes, they want to make sure that those two timelines never come to exist. And the question is, how? How can we change the timeline to make sure they don't come? And so when it comes to Danny Moonstar, she says, we just have to take life one day at a time to kind of figure out where we went wrong at, or what could have possibly be the reasons why that led into those two alternate futures. And so our heroes just gonna have to stay on their A game to make sure those two futures never come around. Now we pick up with Magneto, and when it comes to Magneto, he's very worried about being too harsh on the New Mutants, but at the same time, they did go against his rules. He told them to stay on campus. They didn't do that. And so he feels like, you know what, maybe he was a tad bit harsh when it came to the Danger Room training, but also grounding them to say you are no longer able to leave the school grounds. Now, that is when he is confronted by, of course, Karma. And when it comes to Karma, she's very worried about her brother and sister. And remember, when it came to the only chapter for the New Mutants and the Mutant Massacre storyline, the reason why the New Mutants went into the city was to look for Karma and also Magik, because they went to the city to look for Karma's missing brother and sister. But the problem is, we're now 7 issues later after the Mutant Massacre, and there's still no clue of where her brother and sister could possibly be yet. And so she's asking Magneto, can she leave? He says no, because he wants to protect her, but also he's working very hard to hopefully find them. But at the same time, she still doesn't listen. We can tell that she is plotting to sneak away to go try to find her siblings. And so you have the final part of today's video be more of Magneto sitting down with Magik. And honestly, I love this conversation so much because it's Magneto wanting her to realize that she's currently fighting her inner demons. She is scared of her dark side coming out. And he says, I get that. For many years, I was a bad guy. And only recently, I turned into a good guy. But the world still has me labeled as a bad guy. But sometimes I get urges to go back to my old ways, to go back to the days where I was an evil mutant. But when I think of those old days, it reminds me those ways were the wrong ways when it came to helping out the mutant race. That my new role is a better role to help out the mutant race. And so he tells Magik, what if you trying to fight against your dark side, your inner demons, can be really used more of a motivation to make sure you don't slip up, that you don't turn into that person that you are afraid to become, because you're trying to save Limbo. You're trying to get rid of the demons who are trying to get rid of you. You're trying to be the queen of Limbo again, but you are afraid of your dark side coming out. Well, why not use your inner demons to motivate yourself to make sure you do not become that person you are scared to become? And once she kind of realized what he is saying to her, just like that, she snaps out of her funk. She's kind of like, okay, he's right, and let me go back to my normal ways and make sure I don't slip up. And the book ends with her going outside to hang out with the rest of the New Mutants. But let's not forget, Magneto did join the Hellfire Club. But with that being said, this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.